9 Golden Age stars who became homeless or went completely broke. They were once the brightest stars of Hollywood's golden age. Living in mansions, signing million-dollar contracts, worshipped by millions around the world. But then, they lost everything. No money, no career, no one left to remember them. Some died nameless, some slept on park benches, some were buried in unmarked graves. Today, we're uncovering the stories of 9 Golden Age stars who became homeless. Real lives destroyed by an industry that built them up and then erased them. And stay until number 2, because that story isn't just heartbreaking, it will haunt you long after this video ends. Bobby Driscoll. From Disney's golden boy to a nameless grave. There was a time when Bobby Driscoll didn't have to knock on doors. Doors opened for him. Hollywood loved him before he even understood what fame was. Before he could drive. Before he could choose who he wanted to become. In the late 1940s, Bobby Driscoll was America's perfect child. Bright eyes. Easy smile. A face that parents trusted and children admired. Walt Disney himself chose him, not once, but again and again, to represent everything wholesome, innocent, and hopeful about post-war America. He wasn't just acting in Disney films. He was Disney's image. Treasure Island, Song of the South, and finally, Peter Pan, the boy who would never grow up. But real life doesn't stop for fairy tales. Puberty arrived quietly, and then everything ended loudly. One day, Bobby was the golden boy of Hollywood. The next, Disney dropped him without ceremony, without guidance, without a future plan. No mentors. No financial protection. No emotional safety net. Just silence. For the first time in his life, Bobby wasn't special anymore. At school, the fame that once made him adored now made him a target. Teachers didn't know what to do with him. Classmates mocked him. Casting directors didn't recognize him. The world that had raised him stopped returning his calls. That kind of rejection doesn't just hurt. It fractures identity. By his late teens, Bobby wasn't trying to chase fame anymore. He was trying to numb the pain of losing himself. Drugs filled the space where purpose used to live. Heroin replaced applause. Addiction became the only constant in a life that had once been scripted. Hollywood never noticed. By his early 20s, Bobby Driscoll was no longer an actor. He wasn't a star. He wasn't even remembered. In 1968, children playing in an abandoned building in New York's East Village found a body. Emaciated. Unrecognizable. No wallet. No ID. Just another John Doe. The boy who once voiced Peter Pan, the symbol of eternal youth, died at 31, aged beyond recognition by addiction and neglect. He was buried in a mass grave on Hart Island, a potter's field for the forgotten. For over a year, no one knew who he was. Not the studios that made millions from his image. Not the audiences who once adored him. Not the industry that built him and then abandoned him. Only later did fingerprints reveal the truth. John Doe had a name. Bobby Driscoll, Disney's first child star. Peter Pan, America's lost boy. His story isn't just tragic because he died young. It's tragic because he never had a chance to grow up safely. Hollywood taught him how to perform, but never how to survive without applause. And that is the cruel irony. The boy who played the child who never grows up was discarded the moment he did. Fame without protection is not a blessing. For child stars, it can be a slow, invisible death. Susan Tyrell, an Oscar nominee the industry left behind. Susan Tyrell was never meant to be comfortable. She didn't glide across the screen. She collided with it. In an industry obsessed with polish and perfection, Susan Tyrell made audiences uneasy, and that was her power. She played the broken, the desperate, the unwanted. Characters who smelled like last night's regrets and spoke truths no one else dared to say. In 1972, that fearlessness earned her an Academy Award nomination for Fat City. Critics called her raw, unfiltered, unforgettable. Hollywood seemed ready to crown a new kind of star. But Hollywood doesn't reward discomfort for long. Susan didn't fit the mold. She didn't soften her edges. She didn't age gracefully by studio standards. And slowly, the phone stopped ringing. The roles shrank. The paychecks thinned. The recognition faded. She kept working, because she had to, but survival replaced ambition. By the 1990s, the woman once nominated for cinema's highest honor was scraping by, living modestly, quietly slipping out of public memory. Then her body betrayed her. Susan was diagnosed with essential thrombocythemia, a rare blood disorder. The disease ravaged her health. Complications followed. And eventually, doctors made an unthinkable decision. Both of her legs were amputated. For most people, that would have been the end of everything. For Susan Tyrell, it was just another act of endurance. She lived her final years in a tiny converted trailer in Venice, California. One room, no air conditioning, no heat. Summers turned it into an oven. Winters left her shivering under layers of blankets. This was an Oscar nominee, living in conditions most studios wouldn't allow on a film set. Hollywood didn't come back for her. No retrospectives. No Lifetime Achievement Awards. No safety net. Yet Susan refused pity. From her wheelchair, she painted surreal, disturbing artwork. She gave interviews laced with dark humor and profanity. She laughed at the absurdity of it all, the cruelty, the neglect, the irony. She wasn't bitter. She was defiant. Friends described her life as part art, part madness, all survival. She transformed suffering into expression because that's what she had always done, on screen and off. In 2012, Susan Tyrell died at 67. The following year, the Academy Awards held its annual In Memoriam segment. Her name wasn't mentioned. An actress once nominated for an Oscar, erased without ceremony. Susan's story exposes one of Hollywood's most uncomfortable truths. Recognition does not equal security. An Oscar nomination doesn't pay rent. Talent doesn't guarantee dignity. And when an artist no longer fits the market, the industry looks away. She gave Hollywood everything she had, her body, her soul, her fearlessness. And when she needed it most, Hollywood gave her nothing. In an industry that celebrates art, the artists themselves are often disposable. Susan Tyrell wasn't forgotten because she lacked talent. She was forgotten because she refused to be convenient. Marie Prevost, the silent star who died unheard. Marie Prevost once lived inside the dream. In the 1920s, she was everywhere. A bright, modern woman in a world just learning how to idolize its stars. She had the face of the flapper era, the confidence of a new generation, and a screen presence that felt effortless. Studios loved her. Audiences adored her. Directors trusted her. She wasn't just beautiful. She was alive on screen. At her peak, Marie Prevost was earning the equivalent of tens of thousands of dollars a week. She lived well. She spent freely. Hollywood rewarded her with luxury, attention, and the comforting illusion that it would never end. But Hollywood never tells you when the ending is coming. The industry changed almost overnight. Silent films faded. Talking pictures took over. And for many stars, including Marie, the transition was brutal. Her voice didn't match the fantasy audiences had built in their heads. Roles disappeared. Offers stopped. And the applause that once followed her everywhere turned into silence, the kind that echoes. Then tragedy struck. Marie's mother was killed in a car accident. The loss shattered her. Alcohol became a refuge. Then a dependency. Then a prison. As her career collapsed, so did her finances. The money that once seemed endless vanished with terrifying speed. Properties were sold. Friends drifted away. Invitations stopped arriving. By the mid-1930s, Marie Prevost, once a symbol of Hollywood glamour, was living alone in a rundown apartment, desperately chasing bit parts just to pay rent. No one noticed. On January 21, 1937, neighbors complained about a small dog barking incessantly inside her apartment. When authorities entered, they found Marie dead. She had been gone for days. She was 38 years old. Malnourished. Alcohol poisoned. Alone. The world didn't mourn her. It consumed her. Newspapers didn't lead with her talent or her films. They didn't ask how a major star could die unnoticed in poverty. Instead, they fixated on one grotesque detail: that her starving dog, trapped inside the apartment, had begun biting her remains in desperation. That became the headline. That became her legacy. A woman who once worked with the greatest directors of her era was reduced to a lurid tabloid spectacle. Her humanity erased. Her career forgotten. Her suffering turned into entertainment one last time. The contrast is unbearable. Photographs from her prime show a vibrant woman surrounded by luxury and admiration. Images from her death show an emaciated body in a nearly empty room. A bed, a chair, nothing else. Hollywood had taken everything from her, and then turned away. Yet her death wasn't entirely meaningless. The shock of her fate helped inspire the creation of the Motion Picture and Television Fund, an organization designed to prevent industry workers from dying forgotten and destitute. It was too late for Marie Prevost, but not for everyone who came after. Her story is a reminder that fame is not protection, that applause is not loyalty, and that when the industry moves on, it rarely looks back. Marie Prevost didn't fail Hollywood. Hollywood failed her. When society treats fallen stars as spectacles instead of human beings, tragedy becomes inevitable. Marie's silence at the end speaks louder than all the applause she ever received. Turhan Bey, the star who chose to disappear. Turhan Bey was never invisible. In 1940s Hollywood, his face stood out immediately. Dark, exotic, mysterious, everything studios wanted when America craved adventure, romance, and escape during wartime. They called him the Turkish Delight. And for a while, the name fit. He played princes, spies, charming villains. He shared screens with leading ladies, dated starlets like Lana Turner, and lived the life audiences imagined when they bought a movie ticket. Turhan Bey was not just a face. He was a fantasy. But Hollywood fantasies are fragile. When World War II ended, everything shifted. The rugged American leading men returned from military service. Tastes changed. The exotic outsider no longer felt essential. And suddenly, the roles stopped coming. For many actors, this is where desperation begins. But Turhan Bey made a different choice. In 1953, at the height of what could have been a long struggle for relevance, he walked away. He left Hollywood, returned to Vienna, and quietly erased himself from the world that had once adored him. No press releases. No farewell tours. No reinvention. Just silence. For decades, he lived in small rented rooms, working as a photographer, scraping by financially. Not homeless in the literal sense, but always close enough to feel its shadow. The man who once lived in Hollywood mansions now measured life in monthly rent payments. What makes Turhan Bey's story haunting isn't scandal or addiction or tragedy. It's absence. Hollywood didn't watch him fall, because he removed himself before it could. He chose obscurity over humiliation, modesty over spectacle. So complete was his disappearance that film books listed him as dead, while he was still very much alive. For nearly 40 years, he existed as a ghost of his former self. No one recognized him on the street. No one asked for autographs. No one cared who he had been. And maybe that was the point. In the 1990s, historians rediscovered him living quietly in Vienna. The cameras returned, briefly. He gave interviews, appeared in documentaries, took a few small roles. But the spotlight never fully reclaimed him. And he didn't chase it. Turhan Bey died in 2012 at age 90. Not rich, not famous, but intact. Unlike others on this list, he didn't implode under the weight of lost fame. He simply stepped aside. His story challenges the usual narrative. Not every fallen star crashes. Some fade by choice. But the message is no less unsettling. Hollywood offered him everything, as long as he fit a specific image. When that image lost value, so did he. The difference? He saw it coming. Disappearing can be an act of survival. Turhan Bey reminds us that in an industry built on visibility, choosing invisibility may be the only way to keep one's soul. Tom Neal. When film noir became real life, Tom Neal made a career out of playing doomed men. On screen, he was the perfect face for film noir, handsome, restless, with a quiet desperation behind the eyes. In Detour, 1945, He played a man dragged into ruin by bad choices and worse luck. Audiences thought it was fiction. It wasn't. Tom Neal didn't lose his career slowly. He destroyed it. In the late 1940s, he was rising. Hollywood saw him as a dependable leading man for gritty dramas, not glamorous but believable. A working actor with momentum. Then jealousy took over. In 1951, Neal brutally assaulted actor Frank Tone in a violent fight over actress Barbara Payton. Tone was hospitalized for weeks and required facial reconstruction surgery. Hollywood could excuse many things. This wasn't one of them. The industry closed its doors overnight. Neal became radioactive. No studio wanted him. No producer would insure him. His career collapsed in a single act of uncontrolled rage. But the fall wasn't finished. In 1965, Neal shot and killed his third wife, Gail Yvette. He claimed it was an accident. The court didn't agree. He was convicted of involuntary manslaughter and sentenced to prison. 6 years behind bars erased whatever remained of his former life. When Tom Neal was released in the early 1970s, Hollywood was unrecognizable, and he was unemployable. Middle-aged. Branded a violent criminal. So he disappeared into survival. Gardener. Landscaper. Night hotel clerk. Jobs that paid enough to keep him alive. Nothing more. He lived alone in modest apartments, deliberately avoiding attention. Unlike other fallen stars, he didn't cling to memorabilia or tell stories about the old days. He didn't want to be recognized. Maybe because recognition would force him to confront who he had been. In 1972, just 1 year after his release from prison, Tom Neal died of heart failure. He was 58. No comeback. No redemption arc. No final applause. Just a quiet ending to a life that mirrored the films he once starred in. Film noir was never about heroes. It was about men undone by their own flaws. Tom Neal didn't play that story. He lived it. Talent can open doors, but character decides how long they stay open. Tom Neal's story reminds us that some falls aren't caused by the system, but by the violence we carry within ourselves. Barbara Payton. Hollywood's fastest fall. Barbara Payton didn't ease into Hollywood. She exploded into it. In the early 1950s, she was exactly what the studios wanted: platinum blonde, curvaceous, magnetic. The camera adored her. Audiences noticed. Warner Brothers signed her and positioned her as the next great bombshell, a rival to icons like Lana Turner. For a brief moment, the future looked guaranteed. Then everything collapsed, almost overnight. Barbara's downfall wasn't subtle. It was loud, public, and unforgiving. She became trapped in a volatile love triangle with actors Frank Tone and Tom Neal. Headlines followed. Scandal sold papers. And in an era where women paid a higher price for public controversy, the industry turned on her. The same studios that had built her image erased her. Contracts vanished. Roles dried up. Invitations stopped. Barbara was cut loose. She turned to alcohol, first as escape, then as dependency. Her behavior grew erratic. Friends drifted away. Hollywood closed ranks. By the mid-1950s, just a few years after standing on studio soundstages, Barbara Payton was being arrested for public drunkenness and prostitution. The descent was breathtaking. By 1963, she was homeless. She slept in flop houses, on bus benches, on sidewalks just blocks from the theaters that once played her films. There's something uniquely cruel about that geography. She was homeless in Hollywood, surrounded by monuments to the life she had lost. Her body deteriorated as quickly as her reputation. Alcohol, malnutrition, and street life erased the beauty that had once defined her career. Photographs from her final years barely resemble the woman who once filled movie posters. Yet even at her lowest, she remembered who she had been. Witnesses recalled her introducing herself to strangers with quiet desperation. "I'm Barbara Payton. I used to be in pictures. Did you ever see any of my movies?" She wasn't asking for fame. She was asking to be remembered. Barbara Payton died in 1967 at just 39 years old. Heart failure, liver failure, the physical toll of years of neglect and addiction. Her parents took her in during her final months, but the damage was irreversible. Hollywood moved on long before she was gone. Barbara's story is the fastest collapse on this list, not because she lacked talent, but because the industry that created her had no patience for imperfection. She was built to be desired, not protected, celebrated, not supported. And when she fell alone. Hollywood can forgive men for chaos, but it destroys women for it. Barbara Payton's life is a warning about how quickly beauty becomes disposable when it stops being profitable. Jackie Coogan, the child who paid for everyone else's dream. Jackie Coogan didn't just become famous. He became historic. In 1921, when Charlie Chaplin cast him in The Kid, America fell in love instantly. Jackie wasn't acting, he was feeling. His expressions, his timing, his natural charm turned him into the first true child superstar in film history. And Hollywood turned that love into money. A lot of it. By the time Jackie was a teenager, he had earned millions of dollars. A fortune so large it seemed impossible for a child to ever lose. But no one told him the truth. Under California law at the time, everything Jackie earned legally belonged to his parents. Every dollar. While Jackie worked, his mother and stepfather spent. Mansions, cars, luxury, a lifestyle funded entirely by a child's labor. Jackie assumed his future was secure. He was wrong. When he turned 21 and asked for his money, his mother's response was chilling. No promises were ever made to give Jackie anything. The fortune was gone. Nearly all of it. At the exact moment Jackie became an adult, and the Great Depression tightened its grip on the country, he found himself nearly broke. The betrayal cut deeper than poverty. This wasn't Hollywood abandoning him. This was family. Jackie sued. The legal battle exposed a system that treated child performers as property, not people. In the end, he recovered only a fraction of what he had earned, barely enough to start over. Legal fees consumed much of that. He survived. He worked. He eventually found success again as Uncle Fester on The Addams Family. But the damage was permanent. The millions that should have guaranteed lifetime security were gone forever. Jackie had to keep working into old age, not for passion, but for survival. And yet, his suffering changed the industry. His case led directly to the Coogan Law, legislation requiring that a portion of child performers' earnings be protected in trust accounts. Future child stars would be safer because Jackie Coogan had been destroyed. He died in 1984 at age 69, respected, remembered, but never fully repaid for what was taken from him. Jackie Coogan's story is not about addiction or scandal. It's about exploitation. A reminder that child stardom isn't a gift. It's a risk. Fame cannot protect a child from adults who see them as income. Jackie Coogan lost his fortune, but his loss saved generations that followed. Norma Talmadge. When a queen loses her kingdom. Norma Talmadge didn't just star in Hollywood's golden age. She helped build it. In the 1920s, she was one of the most powerful women in the entire film industry, not only an actress, but a producer, a businesswoman, a brand. While other actresses waited for roles, Norma created them. She commanded enormous salaries, owned her own production company, and lived with the confidence of someone who believed her success was permanent. At her peak, she earned $10,000 a week, an unimaginable sum at the time. She owned mansions. Influence. Hollywood bowed. But power in Hollywood is fragile, especially when it depends on silence. When sound arrived, everything changed. Norma's voice didn't match the image audiences had invented for her. The transition to talkies exposed how brutally the industry could turn on even its most successful icons. Her films underperformed. Confidence cracked. And rather than slowly fade, Norma made a decision that seemed reasonable at the time. She retired early. She believed her wealth would protect her. Then the world collapsed. The 1929 stock market crash didn't just destroy fortunes, it erased illusions. Norma's investments evaporated. The money she thought would last a lifetime began bleeding away year after year. And unlike younger stars, she had already stepped off the stage. There were no new paychecks, no comeback vehicles, no second acts waiting. As the decades passed, her lifestyle shrank. Mansions gave way to modest homes. Independence gave way to reliance on family and former colleagues. Rumors spread, cheap hotels, borrowed meals, quiet desperation. The woman who once ruled Hollywood now lived on its margins. Alcohol dulled the shame. Illness weakened the body. Isolation finished the job. By the 1950s, Norma Talmadge was a shadow of her former self, living in nursing facilities, far removed from the luxury that once defined her life. When she died in 1957, there were no crowds, no grand tributes, no reminder of the empire she once commanded. Just a name, once legendary, now rarely spoken. Norma Talmadge's tragedy isn't that she failed. It's that success wasn't enough. Talent, power, money. None of it could protect her from an industry and an economy built on instability. Her fall proves a brutal truth. Hollywood can crown you a queen and still leave you penniless. Even absolute success offers no guarantees. Norma Talmadge reminds us that when fame and fortune depend on systems you don't control, losing everything is only one crisis away. Henry Gibson. Famous enough to be seen, not enough to be saved. Henry Gibson was never a headline star, and that was his strength. For decades, his face was familiar to millions. He showed up every week on television. He delivered poetry on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. He appeared in films like Nashville and the Blues Brothers. He wasn't famous in the explosive sense, but he was reliable, respected, working. The kind of actor Hollywood depends on. Then something quietly began to unravel. In the 1980s, colleagues noticed changes. Mood shifts, withdrawal, behavior that felt work opportunities slowed, then thinned. As roles disappeared, so did stability. Mental illness doesn't announce itself with drama. It erodes. Without consistent work, Henry lost the structure that had held his life together. Income vanished. Support systems weakened. And the industry that had once welcomed him every week didn't know what to do with a performer who was struggling off camera. So it looked away. Henry drifted. He moved between transient motels, temporary housing, and psychiatric institutions. He wasn't continuously homeless, but he was never secure. Always one missed payment, one untreated episode, one closed door away from the street. For a man who had once been broadcast into millions of homes, the disappearance was total. By the 1990s, Henry Gibson had vanished from public life. Former colleagues didn't know where he was. Fans assumed he was dead. He wasn't. He was invisible. There's something uniquely disturbing about that kind of erasure, when a person doesn't fall publicly, but simply fades until no one is watching anymore. Unlike others on this list, Henry's story didn't end in complete abandonment. Eventually, he received more consistent care. His condition stabilized. And in the early 2000s, he returned, briefly, in small roles, including Wedding Crashers. It wasn't a comeback. It was a reminder. Henry Gibson died in 2009 at age 73. He wasn't broke. He wasn't famous anymore. He wasn't celebrated. But he survived. His story closes this chapter for a reason. Not every tragedy in Hollywood is loud. Some are quiet, slow, and invisible, unfolding behind motel doors and hospital walls. Henry Gibson shows us the danger of being just famous enough to be recognized, but not protected. In an industry without a safety net, mental health struggles can erase even the most dependable careers. Henry Gibson's life proves that invisibility can be just as devastating as scandal. If any of these stories stayed with you, if even one of them made you stop and think, then don't let them disappear again. Like this video so their stories continue to be told. Subscribe for more true Hollywood stories the industry would rather forget. And comment below, which story hit you the hardest, and why? Your comment keeps their names alive. And if you want to see what happens after fame fades in today's Hollywood, click the next video on your screen. Because these stories didn't end in the golden age. They're still happening.